Now who wanna move crossing on? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up bottle, bingo bottle, never stop it till the beast and know 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossing on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world who king. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, who day we ignite.
Welcome to Bengals and Brews. I am Del Upman. Greg, where's the brews at? Where's the brews at, Greg?
Where's the brews at?
Yeah, you should be having a brew. I've got water today.
Well, yeah, no. What I'm having right now is I'm having a chop. I can put in my. I can drink barbecue sauce right now in this Chop Shop mug right here. And from Midwest Best Barbecue, we're proud sponsors of the show. That's what you could always do with both those combined, right there. Both proud sponsors, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, dude. I'm trying to fast myself, buddy, before I stuff myself like a pig over the weekend. Come draft time, buddy.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, one cool thing that came in the mail today, this new Cincy hat here that you can purchase at our Project Game Day event Friday. That's another cool thing that just came in the mail here. So as you can see, this is a badass new hat right here. So those of you attending Friday, you definitely need to purchase one of these.
An 80s sitcom character personified. Like what one? What character?
I'll take that as a compliment.
Hey, gotta take it all as a compliment.
Yeah.
Crips always tells me how white I am. I say I bought the Derek version of the ring light.
Right, exactly. Also, I'm in for a beard trim and all that and stuff. Not getting rid of the beard. Everybody relax. Just getting it trimmed up a bit for the event Friday.
Yeah. And we're waiting on James Rapien. He should be hopping in any minute. But until then, draft news. Is there news at this time of year? I mean, honestly, it's just a waiting game. There's a lot of smoke screens. Is this guy injured? Is that guy injured?
Well, I mean, I think like you and I told you from the show, I'm like, I read a report that guy Wyatt from West Virginia came in for a visit, but like you said, people just keep reporting stuff late here and there. We already know who visited. There's no more visits, no more nothing. So, buddy, I think now we just play the waiting game.
Yeah, and we got that big time guest in the back. I mean, you all know him. You all love him. I mean, Locked On Bengals, Sports Illustrated. Where is this guy not? Are you guys wearing matching hats as well, or do you also have the Cincy hat with the stripes?
Oh, yeah. The draft hat, me and Greg have the same fashion designer.
Yeah.
So we got the same – me, Ted Karras, and Greg Luther all go to the same person for that.
Except for
I always hear people talk about you guys in threes. Like
and James, except for that jerk Greg from Madeira you've always had to deal with on the radio all the time. I'm sure.
Yeah, that guy I don't like. Greg Luther I love.
There we go.
Greg from Madeira, that guy sucks.
Yes.
How are you today, James?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Happy draft
one day
eve,
till the
buddy.
Draft. Yes, Draft Eve. We're so excited. Glad it's here. Dustin already tossed some money our way, so we'll get his question first. Don't even let me lead off with the question, Dustin. Come in with the super chat right away. But I'm not going to complain when you toss some dollar bills my way. Says, James, heard you on the Growler mock. Should have told Paul and crew it is customary in some cultures to eat your dessert before the meal. Colton season. Let's go.
Let's go. 100%. I actually think it's one of those I'm not crazy, you're crazy. Because I can't believe, like, if you look at any big board, Colston Loveland is certainly a top 17 prospect, at least most of them. Maybe there's a couple out there. But
he's right at 17 on mine. So the one that matters the most, you know.
All right. So 17, right? Like, I get you want other priorities. And I do too, by the way. There are other guys I have ahead of Loveland. But to not be able to see the fit and think it's just completely outlandish, well, I'm not there. I think it's I think it would work out really well. It would be their best first round pick, hopefully since last year with Amarius. I was really high on Amarius, and I think he's going to deliver and be a Pro Bowler. But I think Colston Loveland will too if he lands in the right spot. And so much about the first round tight ends has been the right spot, and if you land there or not. And I think Cincinnati would be. Now, does it work out that way tomorrow night? Probably not. But I'm not going to rule it out before the draft like some. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I get it. Now I'll ask you a tough question coming off of that, Colston Loveland. If all three are on the board, because, I mean, I know you're a defensive guy. You're always saying defense. But if these three talents who are considered at least top 17, some of them higher, Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, and Colson Loveland was all on the board, which is the guy you would take specifically for the Bengals that would help this team the most of those three guys?
You'd still take Genty because he's the blue chipper. He may end up being the best prospect in the top 5 if he goes top 5. Like, I mean, he's on another level. So I would take him and think nothing of it. I have Loveland ahead of Warren for the Bengals. I think that he fits more of what they would do. He's the more dynamic pass catcher, and that's something that they value. I know when they've looked at tight ends in the past, that's part of it. But I would take any of them. Any of those guys are home run picks. I think all 3 would be Pro Bowlers. I think all 3 would be a huge part of the Joe Burrow era. Ashton Genty probably ends up in the Ring of Honor. And I think that he's that kind of player. But he's going to be long gone, unfortunately. And you're right. I am a defensive first guy. So asking me all these offensive questions. It's
I want to get those out of the way.
About the skill stuff. It's really hard for me to do that.
Yeah. I wanted to get it out of the way so we could spend the majority of the time on what you like the most, defense. So we'll just go top 5 positions in need. Now, you may say tight end is one of those. For me, I like to cheat and say pass rush because I think you need another pass rusher, whether that's interior D-line or an end, and getting those guys early, especially interior defensive linemen, you almost have to take them early. But I think other teams realize that too, which is why now we're seeing so much smoke about Walter Nolan inside the top 12. Which breaks my heart, but I get it.
Yeah.
So what are your top 5 positions in need for the Bengals? And you can expand on the D-line conversation as well with it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I actually was asked this. I was on with Tony and Austin on Cincy 360 a couple hours ago, and it was their biggest 3 needs. And I said guard, of course.
Yeah.
And I think everyone agrees that's their biggest need. And then I grouped in pass rush. I'm in lockstep with you because I'm open to either one. I think in an ideal world, you would have Chris Jones, right?
Yeah.
But and so the Walter Nolan desire makes a ton of sense. But if they get a guy, an edge with juice that can defend the run and play and make a huge impact, I don't think anyone's complaining either. So I would lean interior if I was forced to choose and say a defensive tackle that can project to be your DT1 of the future. But edge is right there too, because there's just so many unknowns. Joseph Osai is on a 1-year deal. You're hoping Miles Murphy takes a big step forward. Obviously, we know about Trey Hendrickson and his uncertain future. So it's right there. And then after that is when it gets interesting because they seem poised to stand pat at safety. And from a veteran standpoint, it's not like they're going to move on from a veteran and go a different route or sign a vet or anything like that. Maybe they'll draft one. So if you go that route, then yeah, you should draft one, and maybe you draft one as early as 17. But I don't know how big of a need it is from a pressing need. And so that falls into I would like it, but you don't have to have it. So I think linebacker has the edge over safety because I don't think Jermaine Pratt is here. I think Jermaine Pratt is gone. And so when you look at it and you look at this linebacker class, it's like, all right, who is going to be your starter? And maybe he's on the roster right now. I don't know if they're super confident in Oren Burks, but I didn't expect them to be confident in Geno Stone. And I think they are more confident in him. I thought Al Golden would look at what Geno did last year and say, let's fix this. And maybe they do in the draft.
Yeah.
And then still make a move. But I would go linebacker 4 and then safety 5.
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of those. I thought running back could have maybe cracked the top 5 or been right outside, but Zach Moss coming back I thought was a little bit of a surprise. And I still think maybe they could take one, but obviously where's he going to play? Because it does sound like Zach Moss is clearly in the plans with the restructured contract. So did that one catch you off guard at all with Zach Moss? And would you agree if they take one, it's probably 5th, 6th round at this point?
Yeah, I just kind of assumed Zach, much like Jermaine Pratt, was out the door.
Me too.
And in that, to me, one, it's great news because it means they think he's going to be healthy. And I love that because I really like Zach as a human being. I thought he was better last year than people remember. And I know the numbers look bad. It was because they started off okay on the ground, and then they really hit a lull there in the middle of the year right before he got hurt. And I don't think that was all on Zach. I think that was the offense in general. But I think he Can he be RB2? I think so. I think Samaje Perine is the perfect RB3 for a team in a good running back room. So I agree with you. I really didn't see a running back. Gentry's not going to fall. So obviously not round one. I didn't really see one in round two. And it sounds like Travion Henderson, the guy that I would consider in round two, is going to be long gone and is getting round one look. So to me, rounds 3 through 5 were always the sweet spot. Maybe you bump that down a little bit and say rounds 4 or 5 in early day 3 is when they look to add a running back. I still think they could, but now it's, if you don't get one, it doesn't feel like you can't survive with the 3 guys you got because you have a really stable group of running backs. So would be happy to add one, add more juice there because it's such a talented class, but I don't think you have to have it if it doesn't line up.
Yeah, and Kendall Milton being your 4 isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, he hasn't got a lot of opportunity. He's undrafted kind of guy, but I still think maybe there's something there. Greg, I'll let you ask one. I got some others. But.
Yeah, James, like in the first round, I'll give you an example. James Pierce, he's got the talent, but the character concern scares the heck out of me and all that. I mean, do you think they'll take another chance on, well, I'll give you another one. Stewart, he's got the talent, but the stats clearly don't match up to that. Do you think they'll take another chance or maybe hey, let's get this one player that looks good on tape and his character matches his tape? Do you think they'll be a little bit more safe than trying to hit for a home run or something?
Oh, I think Shamar Stewart's high on the Bengals board. I do. And it's because in higher than James Pierce Jr. I think he's higher than Mike Green. I think they have Green much higher than James Pierce, just kind of grouping the edges together. And the reason why I think Stewart would be ahead of those guys isn't because of his ability to necessarily rush the passer. It's because of all of his athletic traits. Plus, I think they'll trust him to set the edge and defend the run. He has had missed tackle issues, so that would be something to consider, and I think something a lot of people would push back on, especially when comparing him to Mike Green. But I just think that they're going to love all of the things that he can be, plus the things that he already is, which is an elite athlete, has the ability to set the edge, plays really hard, and doesn't have the character stuff that some of these guys have. So I think Shamar Stewart, despite the 4.5 career sacks, had 39 pressures last year. I think they believe he's going to be really good against the run and develop into a high-end pass rusher. I think if he's there at 17, even if a Nolan falls to 17, I think that they could go the Stewart route, and that would break a lot of hearts. But I certainly think he's high on the Bengals board.
Yeah, I don't disagree that he could be.
Yeah.
The whole thing I said, a couple months ago, and I got drilled by the draft community because I posted clips. I'm like, these are all wins, guys. I'm not shitting on the guy. I said, specifically for the Bengals, I don't love the fit because of that lack of production, and he may need a little time before he reaches his ceiling, may need a couple years, and we're still trying to wait on that for Murphy. So that was my thoughts on it, but he's still 18th on my board. It's not that I think he's going to be a bad player. He may just take a year or two before he really takes off in the NFL, and I think it's tough because the Bengals need instant impact, and maybe he can still give that just by setting the edge and doing the things in the run game that he's really good at as well.
Yeah, I think they could say to themselves, I'm not saying they're saying this, to be clear. No one said, hey, we're definitely taking or in on Shamar Stewart. I know they're interested in him, and who wouldn't be? I mean, he's intriguing. You can see the graphic. I think the 33rd team had the graphic of comparing all of his measurables to Myles Garrett. Obviously, he's not Myles Garrett,
right?
But it's draft season, and so that's what happens. I agree with you, though. I think the instant impact with him would be you put him out there, and can he just create some chaos with all the attention that Trey Hendrickson would command on the other side? And that's when it's interesting. I don't think Shamar Stewart is like oh my goodness, he's going to be Abdul Carter or one of these guys that you expect to come in right away and get 8 to 10 sacks. But could he be a chaos creator because he's one-on-one and everyone's paying attention to Trey, and you look up and he has 6 or 7 sacks because Trey is commanding all the attention? I could see that, and you could sell me on that idea. And I do think that Jerry Montgomery could look at him and say, hey, I can get a lot out of this guy. Let's roll. And could it happen? It could. And I also don't think we should let the Myles Murphy development for better or worse over the past couple of years, get in the way of this pick. If you don't want Shamar Stewart, it's because Shamar Stewart isn't a good pass rusher right now, and you don't want that. You want the good pass rusher. Like, I totally get that part of it, but the developmental side, it's a completely different coaching staff now, and the Bengals are banking on that to really matter with whoever they draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're banking on with the guys already on the roster. We were talking about that with
doubt.
Kelsey Conway yesterday. We right now it's looking like Walter Nolan may not fall. But where do you fall on the Walter Nolan versus Derek Harmon if they were both on the board at 17 and they decided to go with one of those interior D linemen?
I need to look at your board. See, this is me blindly doing it. It might disagree with your board, but I would go with Walter Nolan. I think Walter Nolan is the guy. But I like both. And it really – both have the juice. I think Nolan is probably, I would say, better against the run right now and still gives you some juice and can play right away and has a ton of upside. I think Harmon gives you as much pass rush juice. You have the missed tackle issue, but he's got the size. I think he's going to be good against the run. I think he's going to be fine. Like, these are both great options. And you have the Harmon shoulder issue that has been mentioned, that it has kind of cropped up this week. He never missed a game over the past 3 years. Yeah. So I don't think it's a thing. Maybe this is just pre-draft BS. But I would give the slight edge to Walter Nolan. And I think both, I'd be comfortable with both at 17 and think that both would contribute right away.
Yeah, I won't be mad at the Harmon pick, but like just for reference, he's 26th on my board, and I have Walter Nolan at 11. So I'm just much higher on what kind of player I think he could be. That's kind of the best defensive tackles in the league. I've kind of tweeted that out before. 17% or higher pass rush win rate on true pass sets combined with a 10% stop rate. Those are like the best guys in the league. Almost all of them go in the first round. And in this class, that's like Mason Graham and Walter Nolan.
And I think Nolan is that level. Like Byron Murphy was that guy last year.
Yep.
You looked at a couple of years ago. What's the defensive tackle that went to Tampa? That everyone
Elijah Cansey.
Yeah. Like I think he's in that class and is someone that by the end of the year, if all the character things, and I do think the Bengals are comfortable with the character, it could be starting and making an impact. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I give the edge to Nolan, but if the Bengals said, hey, Nolan's gone, he goes 11, say to the 49ers, and Harmon's there, I'd be pretty comfortable with taking him at 17.
Plus, they're going to know more about the off-field and the character and have interviewed people that he's been in the building with. So if they said, let's go a little safer because we've heard more good things about Harmon when it comes to the character. That's why it's like as fans, we're like, hey, we got to just go, we don't know everything they know. So we're just giving our input, but that's a little bit of why. Do they trade down in the second round? This seems like them talking about picks. I can't necessarily see it in the first. Maybe you do. Maybe it's a crazier first round. The Bears general manager was alluding to more trades in the first. But it just seems like the Bengals like to do that in the second a lot more. And if they do, how far down do you think they would go and so they could get a third or a fourth rounder to add?
Yeah, the first is tough. It's tough because they're in a spot where you could see the scenario, depending on their board, where all the top guys are gone and they're taking out of the next bucket, which is like prospects 17 through 25. Because if that's the case, then yeah, you'd love to trade down, get an extra pick. You still get someone from that same talent pool and that same class of player. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think when they get to 17, they're going to have Shamar Stewart 9th or Walter Nolan 11th. We'll use your board, right? And it's going to be a very clear gap there. Or Colston Loveland 7. And it's like, all right, well, he's 7, and then we have Derek Harmon 25th. Yeah, Derek Harmon addresses a need, but Colston Loveland 7th. And so unless we get our socks blown off here, let's go with the best player. I agree with you, though, in the second round. I think it's more likely because there's such a number of players there. And maybe they just add a 5th. And they move down from 49 to 56 and they get a 5th back. Well, they get an extra pick, and whoever they take at 49 or one at 49 is a decent chance that they're there, plus the history element of this. And I think that is going to matter a ton as well. Let's say they're in on any guy with character. they usually trade down. Jackson Carman, they traded down second round. They traded down when they drafted Joe Mixon, second round. And there was
Sample was a trade down as well, I believe, wasn't he? Because we
Sample
could have
was a
got
trade
AJ
down.
Brown.
No character there with Sample, of course, but they did trade down, and it's a good point. I think they were hoping AJ Brown would be there, and that boy, oh boy, one of the what ifs of Bengals history, right? But yeah, so we've seen that history, and that's why I don't want to dismiss the trade down in round one, because I could totally see them saying, "Hey, we love Mike Green, but he's a defensive end from Marshall, and we like going with the big school guys. We have the character. We're clear on the character, but we think he's going to fall. So let's trade down. We'll take him here at 17, but let's trade down to 23 and still get him." I could see that. But yeah, I think the second round is probably where it'll line up better, where they move down, get an extra fourth. If they want to drop that far, I think they'll probably only drop down 6 to 10 picks. You get an extra fifth and you roll from there.
Do you still have about 10 minutes or so? Because I know we talked 20 to 30, so it's been
about
let's do it. I don't want to keep you if you
no, we're good.
I know you're a busy man this time of year, which is one thing I was going to ask. Just how hectic is it covering the draft as a beat reporter when you're down there? And what do you guys do in between the Bengals picks? Are you just following the draft? Or are you and Paul and Jay playing tic-tac-toe? Like, what is going on?
Definitely following the draft. I feel like I'm probably on my phone more than some of the other beat reporters, trying to get any little morsel of info, being really annoying, to be honest, to people that would know. And that's not necessarily just Bengals people. It's people that would know across the league. Any kind of info. Like, I love the draft. Like, if I wasn't covering it, I would be at TV, multiple TVs, have Twitter up, covering it just like I cover it. So, I mean, it would be pretty similar. And so, yeah, we're at the stadium because you want to get Zach's comments, the coordinator comments, the conference call, all of the stuff that's involved with being down there. But a lot of the other stuff I still try to do. The only thing is I can't live stream. I would love to do that. I can't do that because just busy. But yeah, I'm still on my phone trying to get information, trying to bother people and shake that tree as much as I can. And I think that's helped me, because if there is an off the wall pick, Jermaine Burton, well, maybe that gives me an extra 30 seconds to a minute to start working on the Jermaine Burton pick. That happened last year. I think I was the only one in the room that knew that was coming. And I had the article ready for what's the Tampa receiver out of Washington? I had that article.
Jalen McMillan.
I had the McMillan article ready, and then I was told Burton. And so I was like, oh, boom, 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 and got the article ready for Burton. Rest of the room is reacting. I'm mostly done with just a quick hitting article. And of course I didn't update. Like, if you go look at my article, it still has in the URL part of the headline, it still says McMillan, because I swapped them out that quick. But the headline, like, no one would know besides me. No one would really notice. So there are things like that. And I try to get as ahead as possible. Now, there are multiple times where you're going to get picks that you're not ready for, and you just got to roll with it. And that's part of the fun of the draft as well. But I try to bother people and get info when I can.
I'll ask one more, Greg, and then I'll let you fire off one or two. What's the reaction if the pick is Tyler Booker? And for me personally, I think sweet spot for guard could be that second round at pick 49. Mm-hmm. Would you disagree? So what? And that's Tyler Booker saying Tyler Booker at 17, not he falls to 49. Like,
if he's there at 49, you could do a little gritty, right? Because you're talking about a high character guy that checks every box but the testing, but it just feels so much better. I think there are a lot of guys that way that I feel that way about, that Bengals fans may want at 17. James Pierce Jr., another one. If he's there at 49, I can deal with the maturity stuff.
Same.
And the guy that's an elite pass rusher and is going to be very situational. I don't want that at 17. It's just a completely different realm, and the bar is different. The standard's different. So for Tyler Booker, I'm pretty low on him at 17, man. I mean, I'd be in on just offensive line wise. Josh Simmons, of course. I would be in on Greg Zabel at 17. I just think that it would be, it's safer in a lot of ways. Now, Could Tyler Booker be a solid guard? Absolutely. And there's real reasons to believe that. And I think he will go probably in the first round. But if you're the Bengals at 17, who would you rather have, Shamar Stewart or Tyler Booker? I probably lean Stewart. Yeah.
I would too.
I think it's tough. It's tougher to sell me on Tyler Booker. So at 17, if they traded down, if things are different, fine. But yeah, I think that's one of the lower end scenarios. I'm not going to say the worst case because again, I think he could be a good player, but it's not going to feel great in the moment. And it's going to feel like they're trying to be safe and play it safe. And the last time I felt that way about an offensive lineman in the first round, it was probably Billy Price.
Yep.
And that felt like, well, they're just playing it safe. And it didn't work out. I don't think Tyler Booker is going to be Billy Price. I think he's physically capable of holding up in the NFL, but I think 17 is just too rich. There's going to be other guys. Like I would take Kenneth Grant over Tyler Booker. Like there are guys like that I don't think are in contention for 17 necessarily, that are trade down candidates that I would be interested in.
I'd take Donovan Azariku, like another edge rusher. Like those guys are all like, I got Booker at 27. So it's just like, who's higher on your board at that point? You want to feel good if you're taking a guy at 17 that, is high on your board. And we don't know the Bengals board, but I just can't.
I think he's pretty high. I think he's
that high.
I think he's in consideration. I really do at 17. Like he will be. It's Wednesday now, so their board is pretty stacked and set. But if you told me Tyler Booker is one of the 5 guys when the Colts are on the clock at 14, one of the 5 guys the Bengals are really considering at 17, it would not shock me.
Yeah, Greg, you got something?
Yeah, so James, I was really sold on safety the last couple of weeks. I was really high on Malachi Starks. I like even Morey also, but just going into this week, I just don't, like you were kind of saying, they're okay with Geno Stone. It just doesn't seem likely they're going to go safety, but I still think they will. I still think they will address safety, just not in the first round.
Yeah.
Like, what's your take on the safety position?
I love him in Worry. I love him. I like Starks a lot too, and I think they may love Starks.
Right.
I think Eamon Worry takes a vision, and the reason why I love him so much is because they revamped this whole coaching staff on the defensive side because it needed that vision. Because they needed to be aligned. And I would imagine the front office really likes Nick Eamon and sees it's not the same as Dax Hill because we're talking about a 6'3", 220-pound player versus 6'1", 190, and you're asking him to get to 195 when he was a rookie, basically, in Dax Hill. But you're talking about someone that could be super versatile and is a high-end athlete and has some stuff that he needs to work on, but I think could be one of those guys that really makes an impact. And so I would be in on both guys, just depending on the circumstance. Since we were talking about Tyler Booker, it's easy for me to go this route. I would take both safeties over Tyler Booker. I think that they should be in the mix for sure. And Eamon Worry, I give the edge to, just because I'm intrigued by the athleticism / playmaking ability, versatility. I don't need to, me personally, I don't need to chase the Jesse Bates ghost. It's okay for the safety room to look different and feel different than it did when the Bengals went on that last run. And if they're okay with that and they have a clear vision for him, then I'm totally on board. I'm not sure they do. They're clearly interested in him. But I would be open to either safety. And I would not rule it out, Greg. I know that they're standing by their safeties on the roster as of now, but I would not rule it out in round 1 because I think both are in the mix.
Yeah, I like both safeties. That's why I give the edge to Starks because of the free safety position. But like you say with him, Morey, I think one expert compared him to the Honey Badger. If I know that and way taller than the Honey Badger, sign me up for him more. Like I say, I'd be happy with both safeties easily.
So I'll tell a Honey Badger story. So this was he was drafted in 2013.
Marcus Hunt.
Yeah. I think I know where the story's going, but yeah.
I was interning for our Trell Hawkins then. He was working here in Cincinnati. And he was the one. We went to Paycor Stadium. I probably wasn't allowed to do this, but we did it. And watched film. We watched film of a bunch of guys. This was the what's the Notre Dame linebacker?
Teo.
Manti Te'o. I thought of his girlfriend's name, Lene Kaku. I couldn't think of his name.
She wasn't even real. You can remember the one that wasn't even real.
This is the Manti Te'o draft, and we watched him, and Artrell was instantly out. Like, nah, he's not a day one guy. And then we watch Honey Badger, and he's like, oh man, and he's just showing me different things and what to look for. And so I was all in on the Honey Badger, and I think there are people in the building that thought they were going to take him in round 2, and instead they go with Marcus Hunt, and we know how that went. But yeah, Honey Badger. If you're telling me that Nicky Manwari can be 75% of Honey Badger, give me him, because that's a stud.
No, Duke Tobin was interviewed one time, and they asked, "Is there a player you wanted that you couldn't get?" And I didn't think he would answer. And he said, "Oh yeah, we wanted the Honey Badger so badly. I mean, he flat out said one time we wanted him." So
I wonder if Mike Zimmer just stood on the table for Marcus Hunt or what. I don't know what the heck that was, but who cares if he can block extra points?
That was such a bad pick, and otherwise, like, it was not awful. A bad draft. And it was like, what are you doing there with that pick?
What are you doing?
All right, James, it's been about a half an hour, so I'll let you plug everything and get out. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate you making time to come on with us.
Where are you at on Eamon?
I have him at 21. I've got Starks at 15. So I just think Starks is maybe the safer prospect, even though his relative athletic score wasn't as good. Like plugging him in and saying, man, this guy can cover, and the role they can have. And, you can almost play him a little bit slot corner role. I mean, he's very good in coverage. He had a little bit of a down year, but the year before, this was a guy people were like top 10,
no
his
doubt.
film was that good the year before. So you got to watch a little of the film before to really sell yourself, if he's the pick, a little more that you love it. But I would really like the pick.
Yeah. And that's why I don't want to, because I love him and worry and the idea of him, but that's not like an anti-Starks. And that's what's so interesting. No. I think that's one of the big debates and dilemmas, maybe still going on at Paycor right now. Yeah. Do you think Eamon Worry can be 90% of Kyle Hamilton? Do you have that vision for him? There were people at Paycor Stadium that thought that's what Dax Hill was going to be. They didn't think he was they drafted him to be Jesse Bates. I know he was kind of thrust into that role after Bates left. That was not Duke Tobin's intention. And Duke didn't tell me that, but I'll speak for him because I know it wasn't. And so it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, can Eamon Worry be that? Because if so, then maybe you do get more out of Geno Stone this year, and you can maximize what he does and can do. And then you start to establish an identity on defense. I think, I know you want to let me go here.
Hey, if you want to keep going, we have all the time in the world for James.
Hey, it's draft. I'll say this: like, if I had to give my guys, Jahad Campbell, I love him.
Me too.
I want a defensive playmaker that gives you an identity. Like, when you think of the Bengals, you think of Joe, Jamar, T. Trey is in there for sure, but you think of those three. That's the identity. Get someone that when you think of the Bengals on defense, you're like, Jahad Campbell, much like Roquan Smith. Like, can he be your Roquan Smith? I'm just asking. And I don't mean stylistically. I just mean as a guy you think of, because he really saved this iteration of the Ravens. That trade, they stole him from the Bears, and it really helped. And then they get Kyle Hamilton, who fell in the draft that he shouldn't have. Is Campbell your Smith, or is Eamon Worry your Hamilton? If the answer could possibly be yes, then that's who I want at 17. And you could say the same thing about Walter Nolan or any of these other guys.
Yeah, and I have Campbell at 12th on my board. Him and Nolan, like, literally, I think like those guys. And Mike Green's at 10, but that off-field stuff, that is strictly, I know nothing about that whole situation. So I love his tape, but where do you go though if it's, Nolan's gone, Campbell's gone? Because we mocked Campbell as high as 9 the other day to the Saints. Like, I think him running and showing the he's going to be ready by training camp report that's out there and all that stuff, I'm like, man, there goes that dream too. Walter Nolan, those are a couple of my dreams on the defensive side of the ball. And now you're hearing a lot about Kelvin Banks. We hadn't really talked about him during this, but if you still got some time, what are your thoughts on Kelvin Banks? Like, if he would fall, which is not sounding likely right now.
Not sounding likely. Another guy that I would take for sure. I think because he's going to be a plug and play type guy, young, athletic. You put him in at guard. He may take his lumps early. Guess what? That's going to be a lot of these rookie guards. But that doesn't mean by week 8 he's not going to be playing at a much higher level. Amarius took his lumps last year, but I think there was confidence in him that he was getting better each and every week and growing as a player. So yeah, I would be in on Kelvin Banks Jr., in on all of those guys that you mentioned. And that's the hope. I think my hope would be, can you leave? I have a big 6, and I'm gonna give you the order. That's why I'm gonna pull it up here. It would be Jahad Campbell, but I'm right there with you on Nolan. Nolan's right behind him.
Before the injury, James, I had talked myself into Campbell above him too. So
got it.
I'm with you.
And it's assuming health, like you because we only get so much. Like it's not like they send us the health reports either in the medicals. So we're all guessing here when it comes to that. And then it would be Kelvin Banks Jr., Colston Loveland, who I get on the minority with, Nicky Manwari. And then it's Derek Harmon for me. So any of those feel really good about. The honorable mentions, Greg, Malachi Starks was in there. Don't you worry.
Hey, no, James, you kind of got me on the Immemori train now.
We're hearing a lot about Mike Green. Is there interest there? Because you said you think they're or do you think they're interested? I'm not saying that you're reporting anything here.
Yeah.
But Shamar Stewart, there seems to be interest. I feel like there's interest in Mike Green just from the pro day and different things. They seem to like him.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they certainly have him ahead of James Pierce Jr. I think they see him as a more complete player. Will they see him as an every down defensive end for what they want to do? And depending on where you look today, I know Albert Beer wrote about this. They may do a little more 3-4 versus 4-3. And that would change things a little bit. That would open things up a little bit, I think, when it comes to being open-minded to a Mike Green versus, say, a Shamar Stewart. I think that Green, if I had to predict it, they're high on him. They would like to trade down to get him. If that's it, where you add a pick and you take him in the low 20s. And I'm not sure the off the field is going to stop them from taking him. I do think that they feel good about that part of it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just the gut feeling I have.
Dustin here with an interesting, you have been called hot take James before, right? So what is your whole draft hot take? He'll go first. Dylan Gabriel ends up having the most successful career of this year's quarter. That is a hot take, Dustin, by the way. That's a hot take.
Yeah. I guess this might be a hot take now. The Browns should absolutely take Shedeur.
In round 1 or
2.
Or trade up? I pick 2.
Pick 2. Take Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, absolutely. Like he was compared to Andy Dalton like a month ago. The Browns haven't had an Andy Dalton in my lifetime, and the closest they had to it, they traded him. Like Baker was the closest thing, and he wasn't mature enough. Like Shedeur Sanders could bring some stability there, and I get it. It's probably not the best team building, but when you don't have a quarterback, that's like not having Watt. It's way different. Like I'm a players not positions guy, but quarterback is the exception. And when you have one, it's great. And when you're not, you're starving always, and there's no food. And they've been that way for a long time in Cleveland. So can Shedeur Sanders handle all that pressure and do that? I think he can. Can he be a competent quarterback? I think he can. But there's a lot up there, man. That's a dysfunctional franchise. And I just hope they don't take Abdul Carter.
Same.
Stay away from that guy because the last thing you want to deal with is another pass rusher. Because if they take Carter, I'd kick Garrett inside on the rookie guard every single time and try to get after Joe. That's rough.
Yeah, it would be ugly. One guy that never gets mentioned, but he is, he's at least top 15 on my board. Some people have him in their top 5, top 10. But with this could be a kind of a crazy draft. So does he fall to 17? Is Jalen Walker from Georgia? Do you think they would have any interest in him? Because, if we're talking it's a new staff and they can be versatile and move different guys, that they would be interested in Eman I would think they would love to be interested in a guy like that who could give the edge linebacker, do a lot of things, versatility.
Yeah, I'd be in. I'm in on him. And I know that there are some that watch far more than I do that are the other way. But for me, one, playmaker, two, super high character. You talk to anyone in the league, anyone that's in the know, and Jalen Walker is, he's a stud. Like I read today, I forget who had it, but every Georgia player said Jalen Walker is the guy that they would want to go to play with at the next level, essentially, because of the playmaking ability. They need a pass rusher. They need a playmaker. Why wouldn't they, if they're all on the same page? And I think that's the key with these hybrid guys. There's nothing wrong with taking them, but you have to have a plan and everyone be in lockstep with that plan for it to work. And so, yeah, I personally would be in on Jalen Walker. I just assume that he's going to be long gone. But if he's there at 17, and stranger things have happened,
yeah,
I would certainly be in, Dale, no doubt.
Well, the one for me is like I thought he could go 8 to the Panthers, and now there's starting to be some, maybe Walter Nolan goes 8. So and it gets crazy every year. So I'm like, I don't want to rule Jalen Walker out anymore. We started talking about that the other day, and I'm like, this could make a lot of sense. The one that we don't talk about a lot, but we're all like, damn.
Would you take him?
Pick. Yeah, I would, because I would take him over Shamar Stewart personally.
Sure.
For me. But I'd have Campbell and Nolan, but he'd be right in that mix after those guys. I would take him over Starks and Eman Wari personally.
Yeah, which in the positional value too, where he can really bolster your pass rush. Like Jahad Campbell is a good blitzer and playmaker, but he's not bolstering your pass rush. I think Walker is the other way, where he could certainly help in that department a bit more. And he just showed up in a lot of big games. What you want to talk about bright lights? And I know the Bengals pay attention to that. I would say that Jalen Walker is one of those guys.
Big school, fits their big school.
Oh,
they love Georgia guys. So, all that makes sense. And I'm sure you've given your official prediction, but you can do a different prediction than what you put on the media. What's your official prediction on the Bengals and Brews? If I was a media member, I would put out a prediction on every different show I went on, so that I could clip that one and say I was right.
Well, so on Locked On today, we made one prediction, and then on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, I made my prediction. And so it's a little different. So you're right. I'm hedging my bet a little bit. I can hedge it here as well. And it's really because I want to fire people up. And I also want the clip because I haven't done this anywhere else, just in case it does happen. With the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the Bengals select Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, baby. They get their guy. They're going to drop 50 points a game this year. And Joe Burrow is smiling because he has his do-it-all elite pass-catching tight end.
I love it. So now it's on there. We can clip it. We've got it. If it happens, we're going to be like, you heard it? Yeah, he officially predicted it too. He didn't just talk about it. He officially predicted it.
Yeah, we get
it. Was official. I said with the 17th pick. That makes it official.
You got people fired up. James, thank you so much for your time, man. This
Thanks,
is a great show. You were amazing. Plug all 1 million things or narrow it down to 3 to 5. I know you got 100 things you do.
Hey, 3 to 5 is easy. BengalsTalk.com, Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube, and the Locked On Bengals podcast.
Boom. And it's James Rapien. Follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow. He'll tell you you're a dumbass if you try to argue with him about Colston Loveland too, and I love it. Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Man, that was awesome. Colston Loveland, we heard it here first. Oh, Dale, if they do draft Colston Loveland, I'm just going to be happy because it was said on this show it was going to be Colston Loveland.
Right. We'll have to clip it for James, And I would. I ain't even lying. Because I think specifically this draft, and there's so many people that could be there. There's so many ways this could play out. And there's a lot of good picks they can make. Like one we didn't get around to is Mykel Williams. That'd be one of the only ones I think I'd be like, I would be a little more okay with Shamar Stewart because he's much higher on my board than Mykel Williams.
So Stewart, just talent-wise, I would put Mike Green over Stewart because he showed the production. But man, Chop, you're watching this, man. If you have room on the Eman Wari train, I might be joining you right now, buddy.
James.
Good Lord, man. What am I going to do here now? What do you see me? Because you told me to rate my players for one show. You're like, Greg, you keep changing your mind every 5 seconds. I can't help it.
Hey, but that's a good thing. You can't be too disappointed if you got like 20 guys you want them to take. But you can be because the Bengals will find a way to still not take one of those 20 players.
And, back to Campbell, I sure brought this up with Campbell. It's been told he'll be ready for training camp. That makes me feel so much better. If he was going to miss 1 or 2 games, I know some, and a lot of people, Shop even said, I don't care if he misses a couple games. This is worth the wait. But now that I found out if he's ready for training camp, I am not going to bitch at all officially if we take Campbell at 17. I will not bitch.
No, I would love that pick. I mean, he's right up there with Walter Nolan for me. I just, can either of them get to 17? Because if either of those guys get to 17, I'm like, please make the pick. Just make the pick and get one of these guys on the defense because I think they can help right away on the defense. I'm not going to be mad if it Starks. I'm going to, James, talk me a little bit into E-Man Worry where it's a different coaching staff. So if they're taking him, they got a plan. It's not going to look the same as the Jesse Bates, Von Bell. It's going to look different. Now you could sell me on a little more because he's 21st on my board. But there's a lot of guys. I mentioned Ezeraku. Like I can get on board with Stewart. Will Johnson, that's one that because I don't think we need a corner that high. And the injury stuff, and he didn't run the 40. I think I'm out on Will Johnson.
Well, I like how
Michael Williams, Will Johnson are two that could go at 17, potentially where their range of places they could go that I would not want to.
Well, and I like how James pointed out, Duke Tobin did not draft Dax Hill intending to replace Bates. I thought that was interesting. And he made a good argument. If this guy, he doesn't have to be your Jesse Bates replacement. The only reason I had Starks over even more the entire time was because of Jesse Bates. But like he said, you just can't keep finding your Jesse Bates replacement. If this guy, you can find him. Bengals are known to be creative. If this guy could be my new Flowers, who I can move around, then go for it. I mean, dude, I think I'm on the even Maury train, man. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of guys that I'm going to be like, all right, good, solid pick. And one of those reasons is because we have a lot of needs. And also it's not a class where it's just like, okay, there's 5 superstars here or whatever, or 10 players you think are superstars. There's a lot of guys that you're like, it's going to take a little projection. It's going to take maybe a little time before and that's with all rookies as Dustin Croft has talked about on here. So, but you want a guy that can come in and help the team and improve a spot. And, I think a Jihad Campbell would improve an Oren Burks because it sounds like Pratt is not in the plans. I think Jihad Campbell would improve Pratt if it was Pratt anyways. Walter Nolan, I think as a rotational pass rusher on the interior, we just don't have that. So I think I think Derek Harmon, even though I'm not super high on him, would help as a, creating havoc, creating disruption, creating pressure on the interior D-line as well.
No. You've talked about, look, Derek Harmon, I personally would be just fine with Derek Harmon over. I would take Harmon over Stewart, even though they clearly, from what James says, that they would take Stewart over Harmon. I like Derek Harmon. I know with the missed tackles, but I would not complain if we took Derek Harmon. Even if we took him over Nolan, I would have preferred Nolan, but I still will not complain.
Yeah, and I'm with James too. Like when it comes to Tyler Booker, he's 27th on my board, so I don't want him at 17. Now, if we traded down, we traded mid-20s to 25 to 30 range. Boom, take him. Cool. We need a guard really badly. But it's something that the Bengals sometimes do where they'll stick and they'll pick, and it's like you probably could have traded down and got that same guy,
Right. Well, like we said with Mike Green, they know they can trade down if but see, there's a good old saying, it takes 2 to tango. You just can't trade down with anybody if someone's not offering you enough. Well, all right, say if whoever's picking 24th, say, hey, we'll give you a 4th round pick. I'm like, no, give me a 2nd round. We're not doing this. Or a 3rd round, whatever.
But yeah, that was a great show. I thought, we were maybe only going to go around 20 minutes. James was able to give us longer. Super appreciate that. He was a fantastic guest. We will be back on tomorrow at 8 o'clock when the draft is starting. So if you got other plans, fully understand. But we're going to be here the whole night. So you want to tap in at different times, tap in. We're going to have different people popping in and out. And it'll get chaotic because we're going to be on for a long time. And the brews will be flowing over here in my garage. So I'm saving it all up for tomorrow. And I hope to have a voice, unlike a couple years ago when my voice just went out about less than halfway in. But it should be a good time. Live streaming, like I said, the whole first round. Live streaming again on Saturday at noon, the entire day 3 of the draft. The plan is not to do day 2 because we'll be at the Project Game Day event is the plan for the Project Game Day guys and Bengals and Brews. So we shall see how all of that goes, but it should be a fun weekend. There won't be a show Friday because of the Project Game Day event as well. So just so everybody knows, there's no plan for a show on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are fantastic. Always showing up. Appreciate the Brew Crew. And James Rapien was a great guest. And Greg sucks, but we love him, right?
Hey, what can I say, man? Hey, Greg from Madeira sucks, not me.
Oh, that's true. Right. Greg
from Madeira, screw that guy.
Greg Luther, though, he's all right.
No, like James said, he loves talking draft. James is like one of those first radio show guys that love talking draft. I used to call in James all the time and all that. And I'm like, oh, man, I can't wait till I meet him in person and all that. So, yeah, no, me and James are going to be at Greg from Madeira. He knew me right off the book. And all. There were times, like, James would wait to have me on. I'm like, dude, what are you doing to me? He's like, dude, Greg, I waited to have you last so you could get more talking time. I'm like, okay, sweet. So, yeah, no, James has always been good to me. But, yeah, Greg from Madeira, screw that guy.
Man. But, yeah, I'm excited, man. And one more day, this time tomorrow, that's what I'm like, man. I'm going to cut grass tomorrow. I'm like trying to find things to do after I get home from work. It's
right.
Like, I'm going to be just like waiting for 8 o'clock. Like that is always the longest wait is waiting. Like you said, you took the day off, but that's one reason I don't take the day off on Thursday. Cause I already get home from work, around 3 o'clock. And I'm like, what am I going to do for 5 hours?
Well, this is a tradition. People actually eat pancakes for breakfast in the morning on draft day. Apparently that's a tradition. Did you hear anything about that?
It's not a tradition I've ever had.
Maybe I'll go get some pancakes and all that and stuff. So we'll see.
There you go. All right. Well, we are going to head out of here. I appreciate you guys once again. And Greg, thank you for hopping on with me. That was a very fun show. James was a great guest. And check out all his stuff because James, he's always posting. He's always posting stuff. He's always posting eyeball emojis. He gets you to click those articles. Give him his clicks. He's earned them. Guy works his ass off.
Absolutely.
But, appreciate you guys.